Ladies and gentlemen, Season 7 has officially begun. Hello everyone and welcome back to New Era F1 Esports and what is the 7th consecutive season of running. A 4th consecutive year since 2021, 22, 23, now we're into 2024. We've got 16 drivers in the lobby today for what is an awesome season coming up in front of us. We're going back to Bahrain to start off this one as we did in Season 1. It is going to be a very, very interesting one. Look out for this man. They're in 6th place. Djokovic is the first two-time NEF1 champion, choosing to race for Ferrari. Was able to choose from whichever team he could. But what is going to happen with the season? We'll wait and see. Something is going on that apparently requires my attention. And apparently the settings are all wrong in the lobby and we will have to do a restart immediately. I very much apologize about this, but lobby restart is triggered. And how on earth did things get that wrong? Lobby restart, everyone. Season 7 is off to a very, very poor start to begin with. But just stay patient with us. We'll be back in no time whatsoever. So that's a little bit of an interesting one. It's the first time it's happened that quickly. So we'll just make sure that everyone leaves the session. Just got a couple of more people to go. So if this is your first experience with any F1, it's not usually like this. We usually have about one lobby restart every season, a maximum of 2. And let's just hope that this is the one and only. So very much apologize about this, but we're doing this for a reason. We're keeping you in suspense for what is about to come. That's a bit embarrassing. We'll be back as soon as we can. Okay then, so we're going to take a little bit of time to just get ourselves recomposed, and we're going to do this whole thing all over again. Very much apologize about this. We'll be right back with you in a couple of minutes time and get this whole thing restarted. Just stay patient with us for a couple of minutes. We'll be right back. Until then, I'll give you some lovely music and a nice intro screen to look at meanwhilst. We'll be right back with you for the inaugural race of Season 7 here in NEF1. And NEF1 Season 7 Take 2. Hello everyone and welcome back to New Era F1 Esports. We're back here finally on the starting grid, or in the paddock, for what is going to be an exciting qualifying session here around Bahrain for the inaugural race of Season 7 in New Era F1 Esports. Our 7th consecutive season, which is absolutely maddening to say. All new lineups, still the same old game, which provided some absolutely brilliant racing action last season out, so we're hoping for more of the same. And for this session as well, we got one new driver for this season. Will be turned into two quite shortly, but for this session, not a single new face. Every single driver at the moment is a known entity to NEF1. No surprises at all for the lads out there. They know how to fight each other. It's going to be an absolute belter, as Little Drips is the first one to appear out on track in Season 7. What is he going to be able to do in his brand new Alfa Romeo Sauber? The last time we'll see the Alfa Romeo name in NEF1, potentially ever, we'll wait and see, running a nice yellow and purple helmet there. So Little Drips is coming out on track, so is Squidge and Wigan. Wigan going back to his inaugural team, back in PF1 before we turn into NEF1, which is AlphaTauri. And so is Matty MC16, his teammate, who we're going to see in a little while, I'm sure. But then let's get everything in order here for Q1. It's an 18-minute qualifying session, followed by a 15-minute Q2 and a 12-minute Q3 shootout for pole position. We'll see one driver eliminated by the end of this session, 5 drivers eliminated by the end of Q2, and a top 10 shootout for pole position in Q3, ranging over 12 minutes time. That is where the action is going to be, and a majority of the field will have their grid slots decided, but you still need to get there. And I reckon Q2 is going to be a very tight session indeed. We know how tight the gaps were at the end of Season 6, and I expect more of the same come this season. And now we'll see who has been busy during the off-season, who slacked off a little bit, and are we going to see any big surprises? I expect fireworks from this guy, Darren Style, from his brilliant drives at the end of last season, earning himself a promotion into Red Bull Racing, and is going to be a good season, I reckon, for the Swede, who came up massive towards the end of last season in his Mercedes. It's going to be fun to see what he's going to be able to do in the Red Bull, which has some pedigree in any F1. We'll wait and see what he's able to do with his very competitive teammate No Larks alongside him. Little Drips then is heading into Q2 in his Alfa Romeo, going through Sector 1 and Sector 2 now then, and it's looking good so far. Sticking to the track like glue is that Alfa Romeo at the moment. So here we go then, with Drips through Sector 2 and into Sector 3 now, and it's a good Sector 2 for Little Drips, the Scotsman. And now basically only one corner to go, technically two if you look at the track map, but I don't think there's going to be too much room for Drips to screw this lap up. As there we go, and across the line for the fast lap of the season is a 32.112. And is anyone coming up behind him? That is Hybrid in his brand new Aston Martin, hoping to have better luck in the Aston than they did last season out in the Red Bull for what is his weakest season in NEF1 to date. An absolutely abysmal time, sadly. Let's see what he's going to be able to deliver on. Squidge is delivering straight off the bat with a 29.577, outclassing Drips by a long class there in his Williams. Sadly, his teammate's not racing today. Wigan is on a 130.853, but everyone just feeling the pace out a little bit. Jay on a 131.7, so no drivers currently within the same second. That changes with Padarang, who goes into P2 with 130.6. SFLY Jamar back in the Alpine, where he's had a modest amount of success previously. Last time he was in this car, he was teammates with a certain ABT in the opening race of that season, which was season 4 if I'm not mistaken. There were some fireworks with his teammate. Now we'll see how he gets along with this man. I was multiple-time NEF1 race winner, a multiple-time podium sitter, and former championship contender as well. Let's see if Iwatts can just regain that form that brought him into championship contention during the early stages of NEF1. See if he can start running with it again. He had a massively improved season last season out in Season 6. Getting ever so close to win in Qatar, which is coming up next week as well, so don't miss out on that one. But what is Iwatts going to be able to do in the Alpine? It's a weird color for Iwatts, the Alpine, really. Usually uses seeing him in red balls and such for some reason, but I think he can make that Alpine work for him. Maybe a nice change of scenery. Talking about a change of scenery, this is a driver who desperately needs it. It's a BT. Having another relatively weird year last year out. Let's see if he can regain some of that confidence that he had in Season 1 in this McLaren. Looking at teammate pairings as well, No Lux and Darren Stahl finished identically on points last season out, and now they're within 1/10 of a second of each other here in qualifying 1. No Lux 130.649 and Darren 130.668. So, might this be a lineup to keep out for? I think so. Matty MC is spun round. Hello, Matthew. At the end of turn 12, and that is the type of mistake that we don't often see from Matty MC. Matty Van, as said, back in that AlphaTauri we won the PF1 championship in a long time ago now, 4 calendar years ago. Doesn't count for anything now, but he does have some pedigree of that AlphaTauri and elected to go there, as it'll be the last time we see AlphaTauri in NEF1. Iwatts and Jamar running within 1/10 of a second of each other, 1/2 of a second even, so that is close pace from 2 teammate pairings, and then Hybrid on a 130.706 is not a long way behind his teammate at all, just underneath 1/10 of a second. So it's Hybrid regaining a little bit of form in that Aston Martin. We'll wait and see. Djokovic, we completely missed his first outing in the Ferrari. I'm sure we'll catch them later, but it's on a 129.615 at the moment. Djokovic, the recently crowned 2-time NEF1 champion. Now, this is a man to watch out for when talking about potential championship contention. Nasi51 scored an average of 18 points over the course of last season per race weekend. I don't think I need to tell you how impressive that is, especially over the course of the season that was as competitive as it was. So, is Nasi going to be able to deliver fireworks in that McLaren as well? Well, he started off with a purple Sector 1, so this could be a scary man to watch indeed, on a set of medium tires, mind you. But it is going to be an interesting time watching him get along here. So then up the hill for Nasi 31, heading into turn 11 and now turn 12. That's a nice line that from Nasi, who goes onto the back straight, flat out. His teammates just ahead of him. That is a BT. Currently sitting on 132.326, not quite a representative lap time, we assume. And Nasi is gonna go up to P3 on that medium tire by 130 flat. Now just looking at the tires from everyone, that is a very good lap time on the medium tires, quicker than anyone who's been on them so far. Now what might be a little bit worrying for Matty MC is that 130.6 also on a set of mediums, so he'll gain a little bit of pace by going on the softs, but 6/10 slower than Matty on that, or 6/10 slower than Nasi on that run. Matty might be looking at that with a little bit of worry in his eye. As I'm very pleased to say this, we welcome OG Kush back into the league. It is going to be an absolute blast having him back, just getting started after, well, basically half a year of not doing any league racing whatsoever. Back from genuine injury now, OG Kush. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be able to produce in that Alfa Romeo Sauber. First time back, so 135.032. We saw OG Kush last season out actually show real glimmers of pace around this place. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be able to deliver in this week's race. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Jamar's now closed the gap significantly to the guys in front. It's 130.197 for the Canadian Alpine driver. Showing good pace so far. What else is going on at the moment? It's been a while since I did this now, so forgive me if I'm rusty. Wigan 71 is coming along through turn 9. Into turn 10, braking late, just going a little bit deep into that corner, not quite in the apex, and you can actually see the mud in his tire there on the left hand side real quick before it just washed away. And through 13. Now remember, we're looking at P16 as well as going to be the driver eliminated at the end of this session. Got 6 minutes to go, 6.5 to be exact. And Danny has popped up into P5 with that performance of a lap that he just set. 135.3 for Danny and 130.568 for Wigan. Just going ahead of Padrang 900. Ahead of his teammate by about 1/10 of a second, a little less. His teammate, who is just now starting his 3rd flying lap of this session, if I'm not mistaken. So as well, hello to everyone watching. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream. A little bit better quality than this time last season, I'm hoping it's actually showing. If you notice a difference, please let us know as well. Constantly working on improving the quality of all NEF1 broad streams and videos. So BT currently out there on the run as well, currently sitting on 132.326, needs to improve on that if he wants to be guaranteed a place into Q2. But he's feeling confident on the medium tires at the moment, and he is going to improve. He's going to be by enough, not a significant amount, only up into P14. So P14 for BT, it's 132.028. So when OJ Kush on an outlap needs to improve by about 3 seconds in order to push his teammate Little Drips down into the drop zone. So he might have a little bit of controversy between the Alfa Romeos to start off the season. The Red Bull of no locks is out there, and so for the first time this season that we're showcasing is the Ferrari of Djokovic, and it does look good seeing that man in red finally. It's been a while. Or it's been a little bit of a waiting period to see him in the Ferrari, but it felt like that's the place he was always going to go and win the championship now and is able to choose. And Djokovic in that red looks absolutely sublime. 2-time NEF1 champion. Can he be the first consecutive 2-time champion in NEF1? We'll know that in 19 weeks to be precise. Here we go then, on a set of soft tires to challenge Squitches, 129.577. 3.5 minutes to go. That's a good lap from Djokovic so far. Tricky braking zone heading into turn 9, but he absolutely nails it. DRS open as soon as you have the chance and power down into turn 10. For what is one of the trickiest pieces of this track, just getting on the power after this sweeping left-hander can be quite tricky. Djokovic appears to nail it once again. Now then, for a relatively easy turn 12 and turn 13, nice and easy on the power coming out of here and using up all of the exit available to him. And now let's see if he opens up the entry a little bit to the second to second to last corner. Yes, he does. Beautiful apex early on the power and straighten the car out. That's a brilliant lap. Is it going to be quicker than Squidges? No, it just falls short by a couple of hundredths of a second, really. Djokovic remains in P2, but that is one hell of a lap from the Swede. And I think he can cement his place as one of the top runners in the league with this performance already. Good performance as well from Danny DC97 at the moment, up in P5 on 130.306. And also from Nasi with 130.018. But on that medium tire, mind you, we will see him improve, I'd expect. And look at how tight this is. Between Noah, Larks, Wigan, Padrang, Matty, Darren Style, and Hybrid. We can count iWatts into that little battle as well. 2.5 tenths of a second, separating P6 to P11. At the moment, Little Drips needs to improve, or he'll find himself out of this session. BT is the driver under pressure. So Little Drips needs to find a little bit of time here in order to advance. But is he going to be able to do so? Little Drips at the moment battling illness as well, powering on. So we'll see how that affects his performance. It should have some effect on it. But he is improving, and by a lot as well. OJ Kush might have to start getting worried if BT is able to improve as well. Evan Little Drips through the final 2 corners. Nice entry to that one. Keep it nice and tidy on the exit now and power down to the line. It's a good run this from Little Drips, who will improve up into P15 only. And now his hopes rely solely on the fact that BT won't be able to improve. BT, in a session where he might genuinely be eliminated on pace, has gone out on mediums. And this could be a disastrous start for the season for ABT if he's not careful. BT now then, the session has drawn to a close. Little Drips would be wise to keep pushing for yet another lap if he has the battery to, which I'm not sure about. It looks like he's taking it relatively easy. Yes, he is. There's not going to be a lap that's going to count for anything. It's all down to BT or Drips. One of them we'll see once again in the Grand Prix, and it is going to be Drips, potentially with that little bit of a slide coming out of turn 10. If BT can somehow salvage this, he's not far off still. Can BT make anything of this lap, or is he genuinely going to be eliminated on pace here in the earliest stage of qualifying? It'd be disastrous for ABT to go out this early. And he's not going to good exit out of the last corner either. Is he going to be eliminated here, or is he just going to make it? No, he won't. BT is out of qualifying in Q1 for the inaugural race of the season. Last time out, he was on pole position. This time, he is starting at the very back. And is that a contrast of 6 months? BT failing on pace to get out of Q1. Out-qualified by Little Drips and OJ Kushner, not by a long shot as well. BT with a couple of slides here and there over the course of the lap, and that cost him in the end. We'll see him again for the Grand Prix. Little Drips just makes it through by a couple of hundredths of a second. As there we go, Squidge takes the first session of the season by just 3/400ths of a second over Djokovic, and Nasi a little bit further behind. But on the medium tires, Jamar takes P4 with Danny in P5. Hybrid solidified himself in P6, followed by Nolarks, Wigan, Padarang, and Matty. That is your top 10. Matty as well on the medium tires, mind you. Take about half a second off that lap, and he is straight up there in contention. 4 very, very good places indeed. So here we go then, lads. It is Q2 time. It's going to be an interesting one indeed. 15 minutes of qualifying action. We'll see everyone in between P15 and P10 eliminated. So you don't want to be in P11 or downwards, or you'll find the end of this qualifying session relatively early on, which we're hoping that most people are able to avoid, but of course everyone is going to fall eventually. BT is blaming his early exit on him forgetting to take the mediums off, which I reckon is a fair excuse. Had he been on softs, he would have made it out of that qualifying session. He did not, and BT will be starting plumb last for the Bahrain Grand Prix at a track where overtaking not necessarily the easiest. We'll wait and see how that all goes. But then people are heading out on track, and I believe Little Drips is going, if I'm not mistaken, to retire from this session due to illness. Might take things into his own hands, however. But illness seemingly a little bit too much to deal with, and I believe that he will be taking himself out of the equation. Perhaps not. We'll see if he powers on here. So then Q2 time it is, and this is really where every single driver needs to start getting a bit more punchy. It's going to be a bit harder for everyone to get out of this session, and as we saw, the gaps in between P6 and P11 were immensely close back in Q1. So let's see who's first in this little train of cars. It is Squidge 2017, the man who took the first session out this season, is leading the way here in Q2. And in a helmet that I must say he has color-coded to absolute perfection, which is a hard thing to do in that Williams. It's a weird shade of blue and it's a weird shade of bronze. For the Duracell, but that is an absolutely gorgeous helmet from Squidge 2017. Blends in with the car perfectly. I believe Little Drips is selected to power on here. Here we go then, Squidge at the end of the first sector is coming across Route 29 flat. It's a very good first sector indeed. And on the soft you can just stick flat out through that little complex and then down to second gear for this sequence, up and third straight away. I actually went third gear throughout that entire corner, and skipping that upshift, maybe that gives him a little bit better traction. Slow downshift's actually heading into that corner. Third gear once again on the exit. It's quite high on the gearing revs for Squidge 2017 here. But if it works for him, it works for him. It's a good lap this so far from Squidge 2017. Gonna come across the line in about 12 seconds time. Wait and see how it all goes. Everyone basically out on track except for Nasi 31, mourning the loss of his teammate early on in qualifying. And Squidge is gonna come across 29.655 to get the session underway. As Nolox has found himself facing the wrong way after the last corner, and you've got an Aston Martin coming around the bend. Going to be impeded by the yellow flags? No. Is that Padarang? Yes, it is. So Matty getting significantly closer on this run. Danny just a couple attempts behind still, however. Padarang about a second slower than Squidge 2017, and Iwatts on a 130.844, 2 attempts behind Pat. Whereas Djokovic in all of this, he's going to be basically next across the line. And on a set of soft tires, what is he going to be able to do? Not a perfect last corner that from Djokovic, but it's going to be good enough for P1 regardless. Welcome to the front, Djokovic 5981. Here goes Darren Style then for his first run in this qualifying session. The driver hoping to advance straight up, and that is a good lap. 130.181. That's good from Darren Style. We spoke about this during the pre-race show, me and Matty. We were expecting Darren to be one of the absolute standouts, and right now he's delivering on that promise. Out qualifying both Wigan, Danny and Patrang and Iwatts. 3 out of those 4 proven race winners. 1 NEF1 champion, 1 multiple-time race winner, and 1 multiple-time podium sitter. Darren Style is cooking so far, must be said. It's absolutely brilliant to see, and all the best to him for the remainder of this session and the season. OJ Kush at the moment on a 132 point flat, but he's on that medium tire that needs to get rid of. His hybrid's coming up behind him. A hybrid's coming up behind the Red Bull, sorry. Well, it's technically coming up behind OJ Kush as well. That is the Red Bull of Darren Style, who's not on a competitive lap. Needs to let hybrid go, but maybe a little bit earlier. Not the best awareness that from Darren Style that we've seen so far from him. Question is, has that ruined hybrid lap to the point of him pitting? No, it hasn't. What's he going to be able to do? P9, 130.675, just a couple of attempts behind his teammate, or just a couple of hundreds behind his teammate. Still a good performance, that. No Larks out on track, spun in his first outing here in Q2. Just coming out of the last corner. It's easy to do, just cooking up the rears. And Nasivan on a flying lap as well. His first outing on the softs. Oh, and that is an absolutely beautiful turn 9 from Nasiva. He's absolutely cooking on this lap. Let's see what he can come up with. No Larks has just started flying lap as well. We'll keep an eye on his progress throughout this session. His teammates up on 130.181. We saw those two split by a couple of hundredths of a second previously. We'll see if they can do the same again. Purple sector 2 for Nasi 31. Let's see if he can keep that momentum going down to the last corner and to finish up the lap. So here we go then. Nasi is going across the DRS line and now across the finish line. And it's fastest out of anyone by about half a tenth of a second. Just quicker than Djokovic. Welcome back to NEF1 full-time Nasi 31. Absolutely brilliant display from the Latvian. Absolutely fantastic. No Lark stand to finish up his first flying lap of the session that might be successful. Obviously his first run was interrupted by the wheel spin coming out of turn 13, or 14, sorry. But here we go then, coming up to the same corner where it all went wrong for him a couple of minutes ago. Is he going to be able to navigate it better this time? Nice, a little bit cautious on the gas there, you could just hear coming out of that corner. Is that going to hamper his lap time? It sure will, but not to a massive extent because he's up at a P4. That's a very good lap from No Larks. Just a couple of attempts quicker than his teammate. Red Bull looks strong. Little Drips is sitting in the pit lane at the moment. Don't quite know the reasoning yet. The first run that he made might have just been a run to feel out the situation a little bit with his illness. OJ Kush at the moment is in plumb last P14, needs to improve. Other drivers we're looking at now is Hybrid, iWatts and JV8. All needs to find a little bit of pace to get themselves out of this session and out of this predicament. Danny and Padarang are the drivers at risk. But just look at this top 10. It is extremely strong. We're going to see upsets in qualifying every single week now. And I'm very much for it. It's going to be interesting as hell. Danny's out there hunting for time. 2 attempts down on his time, or up on his time, I guess you could say, in the fast sector, just going a little bit quicker than his previous attempt. And Danny back in the Ferrari, in which season 1 he won the NEF1 championship in. First time back in red since then for Danny DC97. So heading up the hill and into turn 12 and turn 13, and half a second down on his time. Or up on his time, I guess you could say. Which one is it? Is it up on his time or down on his time? Bit unsure. Through the last corner then for Danny DC97, and it's been a relatively good last corner for him. And he's going to improve. Where's he going to improve? Up to P4, just out of no larks by about a tenth of a second. Brilliant stuff for Danny DC97, pulls himself out of the danger zone. Now Padarang is right there alongside Wigan71 and perhaps Darren Style as well. We'll wait and see. OJ Kush on another flying lap. JV8 and iWatts both going out. Oh, as JV8 just cooks up the rear tires coming out of turn 2 a little bit too hard. And that is that lap over and done. If he has time to get round once more, we'll see how he gets on in this session. As Matty sent me a description of the up and down on the time thing that genuinely made me even more confused to the whole thing. So if anyone can provide a better guide than Matty MC for that type of mathematics, then please feel free to. It's not going well for me at the moment. I haven't spoken English in a couple of weeks as well. Doesn't really help. iWatts then going down the hill into the braking zone of turn 9. Little bit clumsy through that corner, but nothing that's going to hamper his time too much. That is a tricky corner to take on a pad as well. I did a couple of test laps on the pad yesterday, and that's absolutely abysmal. So I'm not going to comment on anything really. I must say it's an absolutely gorgeous lid for iWatts as well, wearing the colours of the Jamaican flag on the helmet, I presume that is. Really stands out, so really hope he keeps that for the remainder of the season. Absolutely gorgeous helmet from iWatts. Here we go then through the last corner and down the start-finish straight up to P8 for iWatts, which is decent, but is it going to be good enough for guaranteed safety? I'm not convinced. This little drifts now has come out to set a better lap time than his teammate OJ Kush. What is JV8 doing? He's just going slowly around the lap, which he invalidated previously. Hybrid needs to improve by a couple of tenths of a second as well to get himself further up the order. And Darren Style is out hunting for lap time as well. Find a couple of tenths of a second, you might well find yourself up in P4. That is how close it is at the moment. As Nasi has retired from this session in the pit lane, mind you. So no stress for Nasi, who's guaranteed a place basically with that lap in Q2. Unless things go absolutely mental in these last couple of minutes, and in which case I don't genuinely think he'd even mind. Because my goodness, are we going to have a season on our hands. It's a bad corner that for Padarang, and that lap's not going to count for much. JV8 needs to get a good run going. But I believe he's had a problem yet again. Nolox has retired from the session. In the pit lane, question mark. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced nor sure, but I think so. So session is over then for JV8. I think we can establish potentially for OJ Kush as well. They need to improve a little bit further up. Padarang needs to get around again in 50 seconds. He will have another go at this. Hybrid is now pushing to find a little bit of time, but is he going to find enough? Yes, by just a couple of hundredths of a second. Now, precious on Wigan to come up with a lap here. He'll find himself out in qualifying early here. Darren Stahl has just come across the line to go up in P8, push Iwatts down into the danger zone. He's going to have one more go at this as well, as long as he doesn't like to go into the pit lane, which he does. That puts Iwatts in the danger zone now if Wigan and Padarang can improve. Padarang then, with a couple of seconds to make it across the line, he will have one more go at this. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere because it's all going to be decided now. And the battle for Q3 is well and truly on. Session has concluded, no more laps can be started. Wigan has had a problem on his lap. He is out of qualifying here in Q1. That leaves Padarang in an awkward position because if he does improve into Q3, he will be out of this hybrid will be out of this qualifying session. Padarang at the moment is improving, but not by enough. Where is he going to be able to find that big chunk of time? Might it be in Q or in Sector 2 perhaps? Matty has improved to a fastest out of anyone with the 28.991. Hello Matty MC. Making the AlphaTauri work straight away. Matty at the moment on a 2-race win streak as well, worth pointing out. Ended last season as strong as he potentially could, or as he possibly could. Here we go then, for Padarang across the sector split needs to come up with something absolutely spectacular in this last section of track to make it work. I don't think he's going to be able to, but is he going to be able to challenge Wigan perhaps? It's a far ask for Padarang this. On a lap which wasn't as convincing as it would have had to be. I think we're going to see him drop out of qualifying here. He just makes it! He just makes it by a hundredth of a second. He forces Hybrid out of qualifying. Padarang just makes it through. And what a last sector he must have had. What straight line speed that Aston Martin must possess, because he looked out and done for through through Sector 1 and through Sector 2. And now Padarang is up into P10. That is delivering on the lap when the pressure is well and truly on. Absolutely brilliant stuff there for Padarang in his lovely purple and black helmet. Which means that sadly we lose Hybrid, Wigan, OJ Kush, JV8 and little drips at the end of this session. We'll see them back for the Grand Prix that is to come. But we've got a starting order for Q3 of Matty MC, Nasi Fatuan, Djokovic, Squidge, Danny, No Larks, Jamar, Dan Style, Iwatts and Padarang. Both Red Bulls, both Alpines, both Ferraris in. One AlphaTauri, one McLaren, and one Aston Martin. It's going to be an interesting session this, but with that pace that Matty put on display at the end of the second qualifying session, might well be a lock for a pole position. Matty MC, if he can keep that going into Q3. We'll have to wait and see, but that is absolutely brilliant pace for Matty MC. As ladies and gentlemen, Q3 has now begun. For the first time this season, we'll have a top 10 shootout for pole position, ranging over the next 12 minutes of action. It's going to be absolutely brilliant to look at. So then a top 10 on paper, which could be incredibly close. Watch out for the pace of Matty, Nasi and Djokovic, especially Squidge has proven himself to be no slouch either, and you can't ever count Danny DC out for a good result. A Squidge comes out early yet again to get this session underway, seemingly enjoying coming out first. Which I absolutely do not blame him for at the moment. So then most people heading out on track. Darren Style, the only one electing to stay in the pit lane, but he's just now coming out. If you look at the bottom right hand side of the screen, that is the Red Bull garage taking the number 93 Red Bull off its I don't know what it is they place under the car. If it's a little plate with a couple of wheels on, I think. Just make it float a little bit. Off its floaty device is that Red Bull now, and heading out on track. And I believe no Lark's actually in the pit lane still, so both Red Bulls leaving this one quite late. Squidge then, not an incredibly fast outlap. As here we go then, both Squidge and Matty MC now getting their laps underway, and I believe Matty actually overtook Squidge on that lap. Yes, he did. Matty now on a run of absolutely brilliant pace, 2 race wins in a row, and now is he going to be able to line his car up on provisional pole position here at the early stages of Q3? We've got Spenclose in the chat cheering on his teammate Squidge. Absolutely brilliant to see, and it's going to be fun seeing those two together over the course of the season. But for now, our focus is on this man. Matty MC16 is going to be able to deliver a pole position to Scuderia AlphaTauri. Here we go then. He's capable of a 128.9. We know that from previously. Coming around the last corner, is he going to be able to match that or even improve upon it? Or is he just going to fall a little bit short? He is going to fall a little bit short. 29.652 to start off session for Matty. Still not a bad time whatsoever. Next across the line is going to be Squidge 2017. No, it's not. It's going to be Padrang 900. Followed by Nasi 31. Padrang is going to go into P2 130.62 nil, with Nasi about to follow him onto provisional pole position for Nasi 31 29.158. Another couple of cars coming across the line. It is iWatts first, Squidge second. Not a good lap from him. Good lap from Danny. Pulls himself up into P2 and just half a tenth away from provisional P1, but his teammate does it. 29.111, and provisional P1 belongs to Ferrari. It's a Ferrari 1-3, Nasi in that sandwich, splitting them up. 1/10 of a second separating the top 3 at the moment. Absolutely close and brilliant stuff. Talking about brilliant stuff, Darren has not been able to produce it on this attempt. So Darren invalidating this lap. No Lars is out on an outlap. Squidge needs to perform much better than he did on his initial one. The question is, does he go for a double lap run on this attempt, or does he go into the pit lane without proper banker and then bet it all basically that he can actually salvage a run at the dying stages of this session? We'll wait and see what he elects to do. It's going to be an interesting one, this. But at the moment, he's going rather rapid, is Squidge 2017. And what does he fuel up for as well? Yellow flags in Sector 3, not going to affect him, and he goes up into P4, the Squidge, just out of Matty MC. So Matty probably did not have the massively good lap we expected him to. But I think that lap time is so bad in his standards that something had to go wrong for him in order to set a lap time that slow by his standards. So we'll see when Matty comes out again, if he's able to improve massively on it, and if he's able to challenge Djokovic, Nasi and Danny for that provisional P1 slot. No Larks now, starting a flying lap. through turn 1, turn 2 and turn 3. No real drama going on there. The Red Bull's looking planted, assist the hands of Verstappen. Now through turn 4, heading into turn 5 and 6. Tricky piece of track this. Need to really be committed to it. That's a good line from No Larksvat. Taking up a lot of curb, but you really need to keep it flat through there and then down into second or third gear through this right-hander. Early upshift if nothing else. And early on the power. You want to downshift quite slowly heading into this corner. For some reason it just helps with getting the car slowed down. The air is wide open as we approach turn 10 then. Lap is looking quite good for No Larks. I expect to see him at about 129.76, somewhere thereabout. 108.372 through the second sector. So at the moment the track belongs to Red Bull, the only two cars out there. Everyone else currently in the pit lane just waiting for the final couple of minutes to roll around, but people are now starting to come out of the pit lane. Now I'm willing to bet money that that's Squidge 2017, and No Larks goes into the pit lane not satisfied with that run. He's going to have one more go at this. No one was coming out of the pit lane, someone was going into the pit lane, I believe. So if anyone had taken me up on that bet, they would have won money. In other words, do not bet. Don't be like Sauber. Tollyman is in chat. Tollyman's in chat cheering on SFLY Jamar. Absolutely brilliant to see you in stream, but hopefully you're enjoying the entertainment, and the race is about to begin in about 10 minutes time, thereabouts. As here we go, Darren Styles' car is now proper off the floaty device described earlier and now out on track on other devices, meaning they will not float whatsoever. Those are very sticky soft tires on that Red Bull, keeping him well and truly planted to the floor. And now let's see what he can do in that Red Bull in his first Q3 outing of the season in that Red Bull. What is he going to be able to do? A driver that picked up points on regular occasions last season. Not relatively used to being in Q3, however, so let's see how he deals with that pressure. And at the moment, handling it quite well. 108.366, going through the second sector. And it is looking proper aggressive, this from Darren Style as well. And now drivers are starting to come out of the pit lane and onto their final runs. It is all going to get hectic soon, my friends. Here we go then. Darren Style moves up in P8. Only had a Padarang, but not a bad attempt at 130.542 for his first Q3 outing. I reckon that's only going to be good enough for P9 or P10, but Darren Style into Q3 for the first time this season straight away. Absolutely brilliant performance from the Swede. Every single car now out on track. No Larks is leading the way. He's in P10 at the moment. We'll be massively looking at this man. Matty MC16, we know has the potential to set a lap time good enough for pole position here, but will he live up to that potential? It's what we're looking at this session. Danny DC97 only a 10th away from his massively quick teammate Djokovic. Are those two going to come together at any course over the course of the season? We'll wait and see. Squidge has the potential to clinch a surprise pole as well. Is he going to be able to? We'll have to wait and see. In 2 minutes we'll have the answer. Squidge 2017 leads the way from No Larks, and I believe that's an Alpine of Jamar about to cross the line. No, that is iWatts. Here we go then, through Sector 2 with Squidge. Improves by about 0.2 of a second going through the first sector. And if he keeps that very gap up at the same extent that he has previously. So 2 times per sector, he will be on provisional pole position come the end of this lap. Squidge 2017, then what is he going to be able to deliver in that Williams? We'll wait and see. Heading into turn 10, he's going to be able to ace the line. Looking good so far. Three and a half tenths down on his time. Squidge 2017 right now is on his way to a P3 or a P2, not quite a P1, but he's not far off. Is he going to be able to improve further through this last sector? I have to wait and see. He's going to come across the line just now then to set the tone. Provisional pole position goes to Squidge 2017. Next across the line then is going to be NEF1. In this battle for pole position, we've got an Alpine coming up ahead. I believe that is Iwatts, could be Jamar. A little bit unsure. That is Iwatts, 29.8, all she wrote for this session. Nassi now is on provisional pole position by about a tenth and a half, 28.878. Now, where's Matty in all of this? He's going to come across the line shortly. Danny, not able to improve past his teammate, but getting closer. Padrang, just getting ahead of Matty. Precious on Matty now. Does he snatch provisional pole away? No, he doesn't, but he gets ever so close. Within a tenth of a second, basically, is Matty MC. And where is Djokovic in all of this? He's improving. Is he going to be able to keep the momentum going? The reigning, defending NEF1 champion, will he start on the front row? He'll start on the front row, but not on pole position, because that belongs to the Latvian Lightning. Nassi 31 will start the Bahrain Grand Prix on pole position from Djokovic, from Matty, from Squidge, and from Danny. Padarang with a really good P6 there, followed by Jamar, No Larks, Iwat in P9, and Darren Style having to satisfy himself with P10. Having to be satisfied with P10. That is another good quote from Savas this evening. That is an absolutely brilliant end to a brilliant qualifying session. And yeah, just absolutely brilliant pace from Nassi 31. It wouldn't have been a surprise if you told me that he was going to snatch pole position away at the very end of this session. Djokovic getting ever so close, within half a tenth of a second. Matty not far behind either. Then you don't really have a big gap between Squidge and Danny either. It is very close between the top 5. Then we have that little bit of a gap to Padrang, then also to Jamar, No Larks, Iwatts, and then obviously quite a big gap to Darren Style, who didn't quite make this run work. But Nassi 31, kudos to the first pole sitter of Season 7. And there we can see the gaps between the top 5, less than 3 tenths of a second to start off the season. Absolutely brilliant stuff. So then, all the drivers are going to know this. We're going to be going to a quick break before we get this Grand Prix underway. It was a really close qualifying session, as Padarang is pointing out in chat there. We'll be going to a quick break before we get this Grand Prix underway. Just allow the drivers a chance to breathe, have a drink of water, and everything they need to do in order to prepare. We'll be back in a couple of minutes' time for full coverage of the Bahrain Grand Prix here in NEF1. The season is now well and truly underway. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with you in a little bit of time for the Bahrain Grand Prix. All right then, everyone, we are back with full coverage of the Bahrain Grand Prix. We're into the closing stages of the break now, so all drivers better start getting prepared. We'll be going in a couple of minutes time. No one ready up as of quite yet, but we're not far away now. So the Bahrain Grand Prix consists of 29 laps. Relatively easy strategy if we don't have a safety car. It's a one-stop medium to hard. If you can make it work, maybe a soft medium, but you really need to be pushing those tires now. It's not a massively long pit lane around this place, about 23-24 seconds if you get it all right. But yeah, it's a track where overtaking is not madly difficult, but it's definitely not guaranteed. So really, track precision could be key around this place. And there we go, we can confirm that the ready up has been given. We'll be going racing in about 30 seconds time for 29 laps plus a formation lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix. It is one of the absolute staples of the NEF1 calendar. I don't think we've done a season where this track isn't on. We've done season openers, we've done season finales, championships have not been decided in Bahrain. I was about to say they haven't. But we've done double points races around this place before. It's been subject to all sorts of NEF1 experiments and fun times. Let's hope that this race is the best one we've had so far. We'll be going in just a short few moments. As there we go, on the grid for the first time this season, Nasi leads the way from Djokovic, Matty and Squidge. Danny DC97 followed by Padarang. Jamar followed by Nolarks. Then we have Iwat in P9 followed by Darren Style in P10. Hybrid in P11 followed by Wigan in P12. OJ Kush in P13 followed by JV8 P14. Lil Drips P15, unsure whether or not he's going to complete this race, battling illness. We have a chance that he is going to retire on the fast lap. It's unsure at the moment, with a BT following him in P16. As for the strategy, we'll have a look on that. I believe it's actually relatively split. A couple of guys on the medium tires, a couple of guys on the hard tires, one outlier on the softs, that's Lil Drips. Is that an indication that this race is a bit of a throwaway? It could be so. Or he's going for that aggressive two-stopper and actually giving himself a little bit more time to breathe in that pit lane. We'll wait and see, but he is not feeling well from what we know previously. So Lil Drips could be retiring at the end of the first lap. We'll wait and see. BT definitely has some ground to make up. I'm actually quite surprised that he, of all people, aren't starting on that very aggressive soft tire just to try to make something work. Chance of a safety car here relatively high compared to other tracks on the NEF1 calendar. We have lowered the rate of the safety car significantly over the course of the last season, but it is ever still present in league racing. The entire field as well in a McLaren sandwich at the moment. I don't think that's going to play a part strategically, but it could. I would like to advise OJ Kush as well to please close it up to the rest of the field. Don't leave any big gaps. It's a penalizable offense. Same goes to, I believe, that is Jamar's thing stand. As here we go, and Nasi's going to line it up on the left-hand side of the grid on the front row. He has fast starting Djokovic alongside him. It's McLaren versus Ferrari for the start of the season with AlphaTauri and Williams right there. Everyone is lined up at the back of the field. We'll be going racing in just a couple of moments time for the Bahrain Grand Prix for the first time in Season 7. Let's do our original commentator around this track proud. Neil, this one's for you. We got 5 red lights. And it's go time for the Bahrain Grand Prix, and Nasi gets away sublimely well. Djokovic does not for once in a while. Danny's going to be challenging him into turn 1, and Djokovic is in a little bit of a pickle here. Matty swoops around this outside. Do they make contact ever so slightly? Matty takes P2 away from Djokovic, who defends from Danny now. Up to P3. Djokovic is trying to come back at Matty. Squidge is having at Danny. Down the inside into turn 4. And Squidge is going to have Danny out there, just forcing him a little bit wide. Danny has to cede position, remains in P5 from the start. Djokovic having a massively bad getaway just straight off the line there. I regret we can't actually get your replay of that, but not a good start at all from Djokovic. No major incidents at the early stages of this one. Little drips falling back quite significantly. Wigan not having a good start either. BT up 3 positions immediately. Their style down a couple. But a relatively quiet start. But Nasi just running away with a little bit. 1 second now is the gap. Matty challenging Djokovic straight away and was able to take that position away in relative ease of the start. But let's see if Djokovic can now start coming back at him and eating that gap up over the next couple of laps, or if Matty can just start running in the gap on Nasi that little bit. Bahrain 900 right now is also running relatively unchallenged a little bit, about half a second up, half a second down. Iwat is closest to him. Nolok's really close to the back of him as well. Actually having a little look into turn 14, but thinking better of it. Not really going we can make a diving move. Fastest lap of the race so far. That goes to Nasi, and now Djokovic is starting to just move about a little bit in the slipstream. So is Matty, in a car that's seemingly relatively fast in a straight line. Little Drips has retired from the session in the pit lane, becomes our first retiree of the season due to illness, I'm afraid. I'll hope to see him next week out in Qatar. Feel better soon, Little Drips. Shame we didn't see more from you this afternoon. Nasi, Fatuan, Matty and Djokovic then leading the way. Not really a surprise top 3, but man, they did look good in those colours. Then we have a fast Williams behind them, and Danny just pushing behind as well. DRS won't be enabled until next lap is worthy of noting as well. Yellow flags in the pit lane, that is now gone. As Matty making the track really wide, even in a Grand Prix situation, is taking those esports lines, just trying to find every single little piece of pace that he can off that track. Is that a case of he's being pushed, or is just trying to maximize every single bit of pace that he has? Is he going to be able to keep with these guys in the long run? We'll wait and see. His qualifying pace was immense when he got that well and truly right. But he's pushing those track limits right now, and there was the little mistake that is just going to allow Djokovic into this fight. Now it's a pure drag race to turn 1. Matty really good on the break, but Djokovic has grabbed that position now. Is Matty going to be able to have at him? Yes, he absolutely is. Into the braking zone of turn 1. Who's going to come out ahead of that one? Matty on the inside. Djokovic keeps the position round the outside, and that is sterling defense from Djokovic. Matty just with a little bit of a screw up coming out of the last corner, and that has allowed Djokovic to pull ahead. Now still hunting down Nasi Fadwan, and now the strategic game has been opened because DRS has been enabled, and now Danny and Djokovic in an interesting situation here, running relatively close to each other on the track. Are they going to start cooperating a little bit? Danny at the moment just running a little bit behind as well. I don't know if he'll get the DRS on this lap. Yes, he will, and that's crucial for Danny. Very well could have been left behind there. Djokovic is getting ever closer to Nasi now with the aid of that drag reduction, but he's not going to have a go on this lap. Just going to wait until probably the start-finish straight to have our first little go for a shot at the lead of the Grand Prix. We're only on lap 3 out of 29, and already stuff is kicking off. Djokovic, look at how close he is to the back of that McLaren, and this might be a slam dunk move for the lead of the Grand Prix. JV8's had a problem coming out of turn 13. Yellow flags are out in sector 3, but Djokovic on lap 4. Just as we enter lap 4, he takes the lead of the Grand Prix uncontested. Nasi cannot do anything about that one. He has to defend from Matty, actually. Got relatively close there. Padrang is going to pass this fellow by Jamar. They're doing battle into turn 1. We'll have a look at that in a little bit, but as soon or as long as there's a battle for the lead going on, it's quite hard to ignore. But their positions remain as they are heading into turn 4. So here we go, Vanassi now not only the Grand Prix. Djokovic snatched that away from him, fair fashion. Not a lot that Vanassi could do about it. Let's see how that car is set up, because Matti did gain a lot of him, even without DRS a couple of laps back. So let's see if that McLaren's more optimized for qualifying performance. Is he going to be able to eat the gap up to Djokovic on this straight? Not really. Not really. That Ferrari appears fast in a straight line. The McLaren either relatively fast in a straight line or actually quite slow. No massive straight line speed pace shown by Nassi there, so that is going to be one to keep an eye on. Padrang now relatively close to the back of No Larks, might be looking to get a move on there as well. Currently sitting in P8 is Padrang. Teammate running in P10, so double point finish as things stand for the Aston Martin boys. Let's see, Squidge is running really close to the back of Matti MC right now, but Nassi can't really get close to the back of Djokovic. It's getting closer with that DRS, but not even remotely close enough to start thinking about a move, as of yet, that is. You do get 2 chances around this track, but it is hard to follow through turn 1 through 3. Squidge, however, is really close to the back of Matti. Close enough to think about a diving move, but thinks better of that. Oh, as Padrang just gets a little bit loose coming out of turn 4, and that is going to have Iwatts all sorts of interested. As now then, we join the midfield battle for a bit to see what is going on. Squidge is still pushing Matti around most corners of the circuit. Danny's been left a little bit behind, but he's just ranging in that 1.2, 1.3 second gap. So any single mistake, he'll be there to pounce right away. Iwatts then trying to push Padrang perhaps into a little bit of a mistake. Worth noting as well is that quite a lot of these guys are actually on hard tires. It's Jamar, Padrang, Iwatts and Hybrid, and they're the ones currently struggling keeping up with the medium runners. That is going to change. What happens when Jamar's hard switch on better than the mediums of Danny? Is that gap going to start disappearing a little bit? And if we have a race like this, there's not a massive chance of a safety car, and that could really throw strategy into play here. A league race without a safety car is usually actually the most entertaining in terms of strategic battles. Squidge on the back of Matti then. We approach turn 4, but not quite. Is that DRS train from P1 down to P4? That's proven a problem for everyone. Padrang and Iwatts then go side by side for the first time this season. Iwatts coming out victorious. Padrang just getting it a little bit wrong, and now his teammate's going to be right on his chuff. JV8 struggling coming out of turn 3. Padrang down a place on heading into turn 9. But as things stand, Padrang not really making any progress in the way that he needs to. But remember, it is hard tires versus medium tires. A BT is going to eat that gap up. Hybrid's getting very, very close to Padrang. Let's see if he tries to push past on this straight. A little bit of ERS is being deployed as they're running very, very close to each other. Pulls to the inside to think about a move, perhaps. Maybe hoping the Padrang would break a little bit early, try to pull that switch off, but not this time. Let's see. DRS will be enabled. Padrang will have it as well. BT will have it as well to follow through, but Hybrid, the straight line speed of the Aston Martin's immense, pulls to the inside, is going to be able to pull a move off on his teammate. They both go a little bit deep into the corner. Padrang has to back out of that one. Hybrid takes P9, and now Padrang will be left to deal with the immensely fast McLaren of a BT. The two who were actually supposed to be teammates for this season, but some stuff did get switched around as Djokovic has had a problem coming out of Sector 2 and is now down to P4. Nasi assumes the lead of the Grand Prix. Matti P2 and Squidge in P3. But what happened to Djokovic there? So he had some sort of issue coming out of a corner, maybe a little bit of a half spin or something. And now that is 3 cars past him. Danny not too far behind. Djokovic now with a little bit of work to do, and that is the types of mistakes that Djokovic almost lost out on last season. Just managed to keep it together for the last couple of races, but he made a couple of errors like that and it cost him dearly almost. Here we go then. Now Nasi's in a peculiar situation with his car that's not really good at overtaking a straight line race. And now Matt is right there. Well, he's not right there anymore because he massively outbraked himself. Squidge is now right there. Gonna look to pounds on the McLaren. They're seemingly not overly fast in a straight line. They're eating up that gap significantly quickly. Nasi has a straight line speed problem. That is going to be something he'll have to deal with for the remainder of this Grand Prix. If it stays the way it is, Nasi's going to struggle here. As that is Squidge with a little bit of an issue coming out of that corner. Now Danny will have a chance to actually catch back up. Matti assumes P2, with Djokovic is in P3, and now it's all starting to kick off here a little bit. Danny now getting ever closer to Squidge and is going to have his first chance at some progress in this Grand Prix. Crucial now for Matti to stay within that 1 second of Nasi, because the DRS is so powerful around here and Nasi is so slow in a straight line that if you're within that DRS zone, you'll stay there. Just pull yourself incredibly close. So Matti at the moment might be looking at our third different race leader this season, just 8 laps. So wait and see. Started off with Nasi, then Djokovic, now Matti is not far away from that. Djokovic is hunting him down though. Good recovery so far from Djokovic. It's a very good recovery so far. Nasi 7 tenths behind. Is that going to be enough? 2 tenths is the gap between Djokovic and Matti. Or are we just going to hang back a little bit? Not really fight each other and just wait for this battle to play out. Look at the closing speed of Matti MC. Is he going to dive one down the inside? He maybe even could have. But he forces Nasi in a little bit deep into making a mistake. And now the closing speed of that Avatar is immense. Is he going to be able to pick Nasi off? No, he would have had to do it in turn 1. But that is how quickly things happen now at the Bahrain International Circuit. Nasi has a massive straight line speed problem. Everyone knows that now. Christina the Gamer is in the stream once again cheering on Matti MC16 as he usually is. Welcome back to NEF1, Christina. Nolark's now hunting down Jamar on the hard tires, and we're nearing the switch round point. We're expecting cars to start coming in at about lap 12 or 13 for these medium tires, so we're not a million miles away from that pit lane phase, or from the pit stop phase. BT's made really good progress on his medium tires this opening stint. Massive kudos to him. As here we go, and approaching the opening straight once more, and Nasi now 6 tenths out of Matti MC. A little bit closer than it was last lap ago when they got ever so close to each other. Matti with a lot of closing speed now. Is he going to send one down the inside? Looks more committed. He's going to stick a nose in there. Nasi has it covered though. And that is going to leave Matti vulnerable to attack from Djokovic behind. Not getting a brilliant exit out of the corner. Djokovic just patient enough to hang back. Only a third of the way through this Grand Prix. There's no reason to do anything rash as of yet. Djokovic has this covered at the moment. This is an interesting little battle as well. Squidge and Danny, neither driving faultlessly at the moment. Can't really seem to be done with each other right now. And the DRS is very much keeping that battle alive as things stand as well. Something interesting is happening right now as well. iWatts has caught up to the back of ABT. Now, are the mediums starting to drop off? Are the hard tyres coming into their own right now? And are we nearing the switchover point? We're on lap 10. Expect to see cars in on lap 12 or 13. We'll keep an eye on those gaps between Jamer and Danny and iWatts and BT. As here goes BT into the pit lane already on lap 11, or lap 10 for him out of 29. Goes into the pit lane. Surely not hard tyres yet. It's a set of soft tyres going on for a BT. So I reckon that's a medium, soft, medium strategy for BT. Going ultra aggressive now in the second stint where everyone's tyres are going to be falling off a little bit. Might actually be quite a good idea from BT. Aggressive thinking, and I absolutely love it. Once again, with the leading pack then, Djokovic, Matti and Nasi remaining in formation at the moment, but Nasi's starting to break away a little bit. And usually, when you're on a setup that's a little bit slower in a straight line, but a little bit better for the corners, you've usually got a setup that's better on the tires as well. So I wonder if that's what's going on now. That Nasi's tires in a bit better shape than Matti's, who in fairness has been hunting for this entire stint. So it wouldn't be a surprise if that's the case. But there goes the gap, just over 1 second, and Matti might not have the DRS on this straight, which means Djokovic is going to assume the P2 place. Yeah, Matti can do absolutely nothing about that one. Djokovic takes P2 away. And the closing speed is still immense from Djokovic on Nasi. From well over a second outside to 0.6 of a second inside. No Lars is now catching the back of Jamar. So stuff is not really happening at the moment with the hard tires. Obviously, BT pulling out and boxing for softs didn't really help us with that analysis either. So it is not ideal as things stand. We'll see how it all ensues. Hybrid incredibly close to the back of iWatts as well. Where's his teammate? That is Padarang 900. He's down in P11, just a couple of seconds behind. Chasing down Wigan for P10 as things stand. Oh, a little bit of wheel spin from Hybrid there coming out of turn 8 down to 9. As here we go, and we're approaching the start-finish straight yet again. Djokovic was able to get the move done in convincing fashion on Nasi the previous time out. Is he going to make it 2 for 2? No, he won't have to, because Nasi goes into the pit lane, makes a little bit of an undercut on the remainder of the drivers. Now, who's going to follow him in? Matti follows him in, and Squidge follows him in. He's played the Ferrari team for a dummy, because one of them really should have pitted on that lap, because now, well, they don't really want to stack unless they separate themselves by about another 2 seconds, because the game takes longer to double stack than they do in real life. Curious case of when Nasi comes out now and how much traffic he'll have to deal with, because he will have to deal with the guys on the hard tires. They're not going to pit for another 7 or 8 laps. So it's an interesting situation. This BT is obviously set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far. No surprise there whatsoever. Now Danny's almost left a little bit at the mercy of Djokovic here. no larks, sticking well and truly to the back of Jamar. Darren Style has had a very quiet race so far, down in P7 at the moment. Obviously bolstered a couple of positions by the guys who pitted earlier. As there we go, Djokovic is into the pit lane, Danny is into the pit lane, but how is that Ferrari double stack going to go? I believe Danny will be held a little bit here, yes he will. But not by a massive amount. So Ferrari pull off the double stack, both of them now on hard tyres. Let's see how much that cost Danny, because he was well and truly involved in a battle with Squidge. Who absolutely has him, and by a landslide. That undercut plus double stack was the wrong decision for Danny. Now finds himself 2.5 seconds behind Squidge, 3 seconds behind Squidge now. And with a fast approaching a BT on a quicker soft tyre. He will have to pit again, BT. But I like this strategy from the McLaren drivers, placing himself in a fun situation here. And thankfully for Nassi, he's now creating the breathing room that he needs, because Padarang is well and truly a roadblock for Djokovic and Matti at the moment. As Djokovic outbreaks himself a lot there, and that has allowed Matti well and truly into the conversation as well. Clumsy move that from Djokovic, needs to keep his cool better than that. Oh, as Padarang gets it a little bit wrong on the acceleration, that's actually going to slow down Matti and Djokovic even further. Matti, who opts for no patience and just wants to get that overtake done, he might well invite Djokovic into the conversation whilst doing so. And what Matti's now effectively done is give up DRS. And what that might cause is him being overtaken by 2 cars. No, because Djokovic has had a problem with Padarang and has lost a lot of time. Now, how much time? A couple of seconds worth. Djokovic might have actually had to be a little cooler in that situation. Padarang is racing Matti for position at the moment, gets the braking a little bit wrong. I think he's going to see that one. Yes, he will. Padarang not really in a race with Matti as things stand either. Even if he has DRS, better just to try to stick with than really try to overtake. It's just going to cost him time at that point. Whilst this has gone on, Nassi has pulled a gap of about 3.5 seconds over Matti MC. So this has worked out beautifully for Nassi 31. Djokovic now pushing Padarang around the track. It's very aggressive that from Djokovic, who now finally gets past, but playing dangerous. Djokovic is almost looking a little bit stressed out in the first stage, or in the first Grand Prix of the season. Not really a trait to be carrying into the remaining 17 races. Darren Style at the moment not having his best evening, currently sitting down in P14. And I should say that position's on merit as well. That is where he has placed that Red Bull for the time being. His teammates up in P10. Still a couple of strategy calls left to go, and still no emergence of a safety car. Padarang comes into pit on lap 16. Now I'd assume it's a set of mediums going on that car. Yes, it is. Now the question is if Hybrid and Jamar can conserve this then for a couple of more seconds. Or for a couple of more laps. They could potentially go into a set of softs at the end of this Grand Prix instead. Which also would see them really aggressive towards the end. But the question is, in a race like this, with no trace of a safety car yet, is it really worth pulling a strategy like that? Not quite convinced. Check in with JV8, who's not having a brilliant race at the moment. Currently down 55 40 seconds on the leader of the Grand Prix. Or on the second closest car, sorry. But he's not having a brilliant race so far, JV8. That's a little bit of a shame, but he's going to come strong come later on during the season, I can promise you that. Matty MC now versus Hybrids. Now within a second, Jamar selected to come into the pit lane. That is medium tires going on the Alpine for sure. Indeed it is. Which means we now have 1, 2, 3 of Nasty, Matty and Squidge once again, because Jamar also elected to come in, so did Hybrid. Hybrid who didn't get out of his pit box for some reason. That could be a costly error. It is going to be a costly error because Wiggins gone ahead of him. Darren not far behind. Is he going to launch one round the outside actually into turn 1? Nah, but it would have been absolutely gorgeous if he could pull that off. DRS on this next straight. Hybrid on cold tires. Darren will be aware, but the braking performance isn't that drastic. So here we go, the softs of BT should be starting to wear out a little bit. He's now finding himself under pressure from No Larks. No Larks, who must be said, is driving an absolutely brilliant race at the moment up in P7. Just keeping it absolutely faultless, challenging BT. Looking good for a P6 or maybe even a P5 if we can keep everything clean and nice. All depends on what the front runners do. Squidge is now getting well and truly close to challenging Matty MC for P2, and he is going to take P2 away potentially. Heading into the braking zone of turn 1. He's getting ever close, and the two make contact. Squidge just trying to put the pressure a little bit too much on Matty, getting a little bit of lag, so I don't know quite exactly what's going on. Getting quite a bit of lag actually. I think that's just Squidge actually. I don't think it's anyone else. Yes, it is, because he has left the session. That is bad connection from Squidge. We'll get him invited in just a moment's time. But Djokovic there was able to take Matty MC for a fool whilst that was going on. So here we go then, we got Nasi, Djokovic and Matty. Squidge being left a little bit behind due to being out of the session. That is going to allow Danny to start eating that gap up at a relatively rapid pace. So here we go. Danny versus Squidge. Is Squidge going to be able to get it back into the session? We just sent him an invite. No Lars has gotten past BT now. BT on that soft tire that is fading. Now the question is he trying to hold on for another set of softs, or isn't it smart to just going on to the set of mediums right now? It's quite a fair few laps to do on a one set of softs to be able to make the others last as long. Yellow flags in Sector 2, and that is a virtual safety car, and that is going to shake things up a little bit. I'm telling you, I don't think BT's overly happy not pitted this. He didn't pit this lap. Is anyone else coming into the box? Darren Style is. Medium tires going onto that car, but it feels like he's gambling a little bit on a full safety car coming out, which I don't think one will. I think this is going to be cleared up for the virtual safety car. That was just for a spin of JV8 in Sector 2 a couple of moments ago. But it is just going to remain a virtual safety car. No further action taken, then. We'll get this race restarted in a little bit. So Darren Stahl, all he done there, he's given himself better tyres for sure. But it's also cost himself quite a bit of time. Also worth noting is that every single driver can score a fastest lap point in our league, even if they're not within the top 10. So the fastest lap point's wide open to anyone outside the top 10 as well, and we encourage all drivers to take advantage of that. So here we go, DRS has been re-enabled, green flag racing is underway. Matty trying to chase down Djokovic for P2, and they are actually closing in on Nasi by a little bit. The gap was 3.5, now is 2.1. So they are getting closer. It's interesting stuff, this. Really interesting stuff. So we just gotta send another invite out. It's interesting stuff, this. Lap 20 out of 29 as things stand. Squidge has been able to rejoin the lobby. Danny hasn't actually been able to get past him yet, even though Squidge has been under AI for quite a long period of time. So here we go, Matty on the back of Djokovic. They're trying to catch up to Nasi. No safety cars for the time being, no retirements from any sort of incidents. Only one retirement so far, that was because of a previous engagement. It's been an interesting Grand Prix. I wouldn't dare to call it entertaining just yet, but the entertainment might just come here, because Danny might well launch one around the outside of Squidge. Squidge just backs out of it, wants nothing to do with it, because he has, or before he has full control of that car. Matty's now flown past Djokovic. Djokovic, who for some reason is ghosting. I'm curious as to why. Looks like he might be under AI control as well, Djokovic. We got caution flags in Sector 1. That is enough. That is slightly bigger off. What was that? It's now been cleared anyway. That was Squidge 2017 who had an issue coming out of turn 4. He's down into P7 now. No larks up to P5. None who are close to Danny. But now he's going to have to defend for his life from SFLY Jamar, who reckons a top 5 to start of the season would be quite a good feeling. Djokovic has rejoined the session now, so he did get kicked for whatever reason. Lobby stability doesn't seem to be absolutely brilliant today, but it does happen every now and again. But as things stand, Nasi's got this covered. As soon as he got out of that DRS range, started to have an additional layer of security. Jamar has gotten past no larks for P5, worth pointing out. Wigan is now very much on the back of Iowa. It's having a quiet race so far today, Wigan. Not really anywhere close to the high points finishes that he's used to from previous seasons. But here we go then, DRS rapid closing speed on iWatts, and it is straight up into P8. It's a good move there from Wigan, just planning ahead. Not really any overtakes going down into the braking zone right now. BT has been into the pit lane yet again, so the fastest lap of 1:31.1. As we have a problem for OJ Kush down in P13, and that is a front wing M plate, but not really in any danger. Don't think that's going to lead to any action, but OJ Kush will most likely be into the pits to replace that wing. Djokovic has left the session once again. He's DNF'd for some reason. Why is Djokovic DNF'd? What on earth just happened to Djokovic, who's DNF'd from this session? Out on track? What has happened to the two-time NEF1 champion? What has gone on? That is very curious and potentially a massive problem for his campaign going forwards. I think the problem for Djokovic was he couldn't take control of his car. I think became an issue for some reason. Which is something we're going to have to look into. But Djokovic unable to take control of his car and for some reason now was retired. Djokovic then becomes the second retiree of this session. Not great for Scuderia Ferrari, that. Definitely not good for Djokovic's championship hopes. So as things stand, the only one who can really challenge Nasi up front, Matty MC. Danny, a little bit too far behind. And Djokovic seemingly fuming with how this race has panned out so far. I absolutely understand him if that's the case. Not what he would have been hoping for whatsoever. As Dard is in the chat, I haven't seen you for a while in chat, so I apologize if that's an old message. Missed you a lot, man. How you doing? How you doing? Hopefully you're enjoying being on the spectators side of things. We do have an open seat for you if you want it, bud. We would absolutely love to have you back in the league. How you doing? So, for the time being, yellow flags in Sector 2, quickly resolved. The hybrid now down the inside of Wigan heading into turn 10, and that gonna prove a little feisty. Wigan will have to back out of that one. Hybrid takes P7. Hybrid is having a well better season so far than he had, or well better race than he had at any point during last season. Up to P7 right now, scoring 6 points, which is basically half his tally of last year. Not a lot of track limits penalties either. The only one that might matter at the end of this one is Padarang's. I believe that's a 3 second for track limits violations. Which is obviously not ideal. But that's staying relatively quiet right now. Padarang is challenging Beatty for the last points paying position. Yellow flags in Sector 1. For some reason, I don't quite know why, but that should prevent a Padarang overtake. Might have disappeared just before that overtake was made, though. As the two go side by side, hitting into P4 and Padarang almost loose. It gets ever so close to spinning out. Ever so close to spinning out, but just managing to keep it and now getting close to ABT under braking. That car looks very slippy for Padarang 900 as things stand. No points perhaps today, but a decent race nonetheless. Still a lot of racing to go. 5.5 laps thereabouts before we wrap this race up. 5 laps now. And Matty dropping time at the moment on Nasi. Needs something drastic to happen in order to have a shot at this victory. Not really able to make anything of the circumstances as of yet. And as things stand, it appears like we're heading for a first safety car free race of the season in our first race of the season. So no real battles going on as things stand. Now this might just be a procession until the end of the Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see. But a little bit of a calmer start to the season than what we've had before. Bahrain usually provides an absolute banger. Not quite the case today. As said, a little bit of a calmer one, but we'll see how it all plays out. So Jay Kush, please refrain from ghosting into other cars. It's a distraction to the guys ahead. Feel free to try to overtake them, but don't do it by going through them. As we got a problem for JV8 once again coming out of turn 1. And that is one of the places where you can get beached on this circuit. Very lucky not to there. As the race is relatively rapidly wrapping up at the moment. Hybrid running a very good race up in P7 as previously said. Wigan running a little bit of a quiet but decent one up in P8. Iwatt scoring points in P9 and BT with good recovery up to P10. But it's been a relatively quiet race during the second stint up front. We had a big battle for the lead of the Grand Prix for the first stint, but that kind of died down with the second stint and the emergence of the back markers that they had to overtake. Nasi got past them relatively quickly. Matti and Djokovic in this case didn't. And after that, the gap has been sailing at about 2.5 to 4 seconds. Where it is now, and I believe Nasi is going to cruise home for a relatively comfortable victory, must be said, around this one. He's been challenged for sure, but he's never really looked massively under pressure. Nasi Fatuan keeping it calm and collected for the time being. May well result in the first win of the season. This might be something to have a look at. Jamar versus Danny with a couple of laps to go. Jamar on the mediums, Danny on the hards. But I believe we're in that crossover phase where the mediums are going to stop working relatively soon. Danny will still have to be wary. Squidge, mind you, probably has a time penalty as well. That is going to see Hybrid up yet another position, up in P6 if you can keep it calm and clean now. Yellow flags on the main straight. That is a stationary JV8 who's having a massive issue getting back out on track. And that is a disqualification for being parked in a dangerous location. JV8's first race of the season ends a couple of laps early. Wasn't going to be able to get anything out of it, but wasn't able to get it back out on track quick enough. And that is JV8 out of this session. 3 retirements. No real incidents, all for other reasons, which is a bit odd. So a bit of a peculiar situation with the retirements in this Grand Prix. And a sad ending to the evening for JV8. Down to 13 runners in this Grand Prix then. A BT sitting on the last of the points finishes. Now, looking at penalties, we've only got one that's really going to matter, and that belongs to Squidge 2017, who might lose a position to Hybrid due to the fact. Looking at the fastest lap currently being occupied by BT, and I believe it might be a bit too late for Padrang, Darren or OJ Kush to challenge for that now. Was the biggest gainer of the race, a BT up 6 positions. Biggest loser of the race, Padrang down 5. He's not had a brilliant Grand Prix, Padrang. Squidge is on the back of Nolarks. If he can get that overtake done, might protect himself a little bit from Hybrid coming up behind. On the last lap of the Grand Prix now, and Nasi's well and truly leading the way. Hybrid needs to push on this lap in order to not lose track of Squidge. The gap is just now over 3 seconds. It's gonna go down to the wire between those two. But it can't be taken away. NEF1, he ended last season really strongly. A summary of 18 points per race since he joined, with about 8 races to go. 18 races or 18 points per race might be the highest average we have in NEF1, maybe apart from the man currently in second place back in Season 2. It'd be fun to do the maths on that one sometimes, but Nasi is just an absolutely incredible racer, isn't it? And yeah, he is going to take a well-deserved victory here at the beginning of the season to take the lead of the NEF1 Championship for the first time in his NEF1 tenure. Nasi takes the first win of the season, out of many I'm sure, takes the checkered flag in Bahrain and secures the championship lead. Matty, his win streak ends at 2. But what a race it has been for Matty MC16 and a good start to the season. Danny DC takes his first podium since coming back into NEF1, if I'm not mistaken. No, he took one at the end of last season, I believe, as well. But Danny on the podium for the first Grand Prix of this season then. Jamar takes a good P4, followed by No Larks in P5. Hybrid takes P6, takes 8 points, which isn't far off his tally for the entirety of last season. Hybrid is well and truly back. Squitch just falls short by about 0.2 of a second, takes P7. He would have been hoping for more thanks to his qualifying pace, but just wasn't meant to be today. We'll go through the other points finishes in just a little bit. Relatively undramatic race that, which is, to be fair, what you want for a season opener, but a little bit more entertainment I don't think anyone would complain with. Driver of the day, there goes to ABT, handed out by the game. Drove a fair, solid race. Don't know if I quite agree with it, but we'll see post-race, I'm sure. But Nasi31 then comes away with the first victory of the season to start his campaign strong to become the 6th different NEF1 champion in 7 seasons. Is he going to be able to do it? Well, we'll know in about 17 or 18 weeks' time. But Nasi starting off, as maybe was expected, incredibly strongly. There we go then, Nasi with the first win of the season, followed by Matty, Danny, Jamar and No Larks. Hybrid with a P6 and 8 points that he desperately needed to get his confidence back up, and Aston Martin on the board. Williams in P7 there with Squidge, followed by AlphaTauri with Wigan in P8. iWatts in P9, scoring points for Alpine. Double points finish for them, with ABT running out the points in P10. Darren Stahl just missing out on them in P11 at the end there. Shame for him, with Padarang in P12 falling down thanks to 2 different penalties there at the end. OJ Kush, our last finishing driver. He is followed by Djokovic, Lil Drips and JV8. Not entirely fair for any of those 3 having to retire in this Grand Prix, but it is what it is. But then, Nasi takes the first win of the season, takes the championship lead for the first time in an EF1, and places himself in a very good place, heading in to what I believe is going to be the Qatari Grand Prix next week out. At the same time, same place, both on YouTube now and on Twitch, so stay tuned for that. The race will be available to rewatch both on Twitch for 2 weeks and on YouTube for the time being, so make sure to check out the race post the stream if you have the ability to. Yeah, mean the world to us to just get those numbers up a little bit as well. Hopefully you've noticed the improvement in stream quality. It is something we're focusing on at the moment, and it is something that's going to keep improving throughout the season, hopefully. So that is something we are going to keep pushing on. Now then, until next week out, when we'll see you in Qatar, when NEF1 returns, stay safe, have a good one. Congratulations to Nasi31 for a brilliant win here in Bahrain. We'll be back next week out in Qatar on Monday night. We'll see you then. Until then, have a good one, stay safe, and peace out.